Hello friends, this is Scott, and here we are in my Salt Lake City backyard looking at all these volunteer raspberries that are all coming up under the fruit trees. And I'm taking a look at these for a particular reason. As you know, down at the hobby farm, I dug up a bunch of these raspberries and planted them last fall, hoping that they'd survive. Well, the majority of them did survive, but I need to go ahead and take advantage of this bounty here and dig up some more transplants to take down to the hobby farm and thicken up the planting beds. So, yeah, we've got some nice ones here. And I don't want them too big. I don't want to have to prune them down too drastically, but these right here look about perfect, these little small ones here. So I'm going to take probably 15, 20 down and, yeah, re-thicken up that bed. So here's a close-up at a little raspberry seedling that just volunteered there in the pathway. So digging it up, and it's got pretty good root structure, as you see. And so again, I'm going to take 15 or 20 of these, and I'm just going to take them up, and I'm just putting them in a bucket of peat moss, as you'll see here. And I'm just going to fill this bucket up. Now, I thought I filmed the full bucket down here, but apparently I didn't. So anyway, I do have a full bucket. And here's a look at the weeded raspberry bed before I planted anything additional. As you see, all those little spots of green are the raspberries that did survive. So I think there's probably 75 to 80% that did survive, but there's a few that didn't. So at least I didn't think they did. If I would have left them in a little longer, probably would have been fine. But here's a close-up of last year's planted raspberry that's looking pretty good. And it'll thicken in and shoot runners out, and this whole bed should become a nice, thick raspberry bed. So, yeah, I'm excited. It'll probably take until next year to actually get some raspberries, I would assume, but we'll see. Maybe get a few here and there. But there's my full bucket of transplants. I wasn't lying to you on that. So I'm just taking a bucket as I'm getting old, and so I have a place to sit, and I'm just pulling out the ones that I think are dead and sticking in the new ones. Now, some of them that I pulled out did still have some life on the roots. If I would have been more patient, they probably would have lived, or at least grown. But, yeah, I don't want to be that patient. I've got plenty, so I'm just going to dig up all these kind of dead ones and just replace them. And a simple process, nothing drastic. But, again, I only have 15, 20 in this bucket, so this is a very quick job to get this all filled in. I remember this bed was all made starting with a hugelkultur concept of just putting sticks and branches from some of the refuse that I had laying around the hobby farm that I had to clean up. And then on top of that, I put in screen soil from the big pile of dirt. There's one I thought was dead, but had a little sign of life there. So, yeah, I could have replanted that, but, yeah, I got plenty, so I'm just going to use a good one that I know is for sure. But anyway, I just kept going back. After the screen soil, I brought in chicken manure, compost, and then I screened more soil. And then after I planted the plants, I went ahead and mulched with leaves. And as I'm doing this job, as you see, my bucket's getting a little bit tilted there. So you're going to see something here in a minute that, just want to kind of throw myself under the bus because my 85-year-old mother had a similar incident here last week on Mother's Day. And so I just wanted to show her that, it doesn't matter what age you are. You can, sometimes have things happen. And, whoop, there we go. Down I go just at the time when the neighbors drive by. So, yeah, I hopped up really quick, real agile, and I look up and played it cool. And I don't know if they saw me or not, but, yeah, that was kind of funny. But back up on the bucket, when you fall off the horse, you got to get back on. And I was able to finish up the job and not repeat that maneuver. But just so you know, my mother's fine. She got a little sore, but I didn't see it. But she felt pretty good. So you gotta be careful when you're out there in the yard and taking care of business. Again, my biggest challenge down here is going to be the weeds that are coming in from the city property, as you see on the other side of the fence. The city owns a pretty wide swath around every home. So I've been mowing it, but mostly I'm just mowing it for it to look better. But I need the raw materials, and I'm using that just to pile on the outside of the fence and smother the weeds. And it's doing a pretty good job. I do need to put edging on the inside of my yard because the weeds are going to come in from this side also. So, yeah, it's all about resources and time, and I've got put my money elsewhere to start with right now. I've got other priorities, but yeah, edging will be something I do in the future, and that'll help with some of the weed pressure from inside the yard also. I am planning on not having any mowing in the back, so this will all be suppressed eventually with cardboard And then I'll be putting in planting beds and then layering it with more mulches, wood chips, so that I just have to do a little bit of weeding over time. But yeah, it's going to take years for all these perennial weeds to be kind of suffocated out. They're tough to get rid of, but if you weaken them by continuing to pull them over time, that you'll definitely get rid of them. It just takes a lot of effort. So I'm just going through here and again, just thickening up the bed and planting the last few, and still taking a few risks on the bucket there. It looks like, but yeah, I was able to stay on the saddle for the rest of the planting trip. But as you see there's how they reproduce. There's two plants that are hooked together with a root. And you could either cut that root and separate them, or I just decided to plant both of them together. Or did I? No, I did break them apart. So I planted one here, and I'll move another one elsewhere. So added another plant there to the total. I think I started last year with 50 plants, and I think when I got done planting this time, I think I had like 47, 48. So I may have lost a couple in the process. But again, I have tons in Salt Lake to use and bring down, and yeah. Now, we might sell our house in Salt Lake. We've been talking about it. So there's lots of plantings that I have in my yard that I want to start moving down here so that, again, garden on the cheap. I've got a lot of things that I'm growing in Salt Lake that I could just dig up and bring down and while I'm keeping my Salt Lake yard looking decent. So I've got to have a little bit of a balance there. But, yep, just looking to fill in the last few. And so I'm deciding to get off my bucket and plant the last few. But as you see, they're very small, the ones that overwintered. And so I need to mulch this bed to try to suppress weeds. But the mulches that I'm going to do here in a minute are not going to suppress weeds. They're not deep enough. I'm just going to do it to try to retain some moisture until these plants get big enough. And then I'll be bringing a lot of truckloads of wood chips down here. So yeah, I'll bring more, and I'll have to do a little more weeding. And then when these plants are a foot tall or so, I'll put 4 to 6 inches of compost down, and hopefully that'll do the good job for me with the weeding. Now down here with no irrigation water, it's all culinary and it's expensive, so I've got to try to water wise and garden wise down here, so that with my limited ability to be down here all the time, I want these garden beds to thrive and not be feast and famine with water, because that just stresses plants out, and then you don't have a very good garden. So yeah, we're just marching on, getting down to the end of the row here. Got a few left, and then we'll be all done for this project anyway. Other than I got to do the most important thing after I plant this last plant. But here you go. I'll show you what the most important thing is here in a minute as we look. Everything green is a raspberry, so this bed should thicken in, pretty good. So give it some time. By the end of the year, hopefully these plants will be, maybe 4 to 6 feet tall. We'll see. In Salt Lake, these plants do not do well with all the shade I have in my yard, and they don't even seem like the same plants when I'm bringing them down here. But you always got to water everything in very good when you're dealing with mulches. Because if I was to mulch this heavily without watering it in, I would just basically starve my plants of water, because the water would not get through the mulch. So you water really good, and then you mulch, and here's a light layer of wood chips. And just enough, again, to try to retain some moisture, not enough to suppress weeds right now for this bed until they get bigger. But you got to water in good. If you don't, you're really going to suffer. Now, these trees, you'll see, I want to show you a little bit of what I did with with all my little orchard here. Is I did throw, quite a bit of mulch in here. So I opened up the rings, weeded a little bit again, and then just thickly layer the mulch in here. So that'll hopefully suppress weeds. But before I did that, though, I watered these trees heavily. If I wouldn't have done that, it would be a desert underneath the mulch. And I can sit there and water for an hour and with the sprinkler, and the water is not getting anywhere near the soil. This mulch is just sucking it up. So you can really kill your trees and your plants if you do not water heavily. Well, thanks for watching this video. And if you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button, like, share, and comment. Thank you.